right. Thank you for tuning into another T13 Media production. And if you're wondering how else you can support all of us and show your T13 spirit, we have merch. So you can get your very own PrimeTime Travvy T-shirt, a Bad Guy Has Spoken hoodie, a Hi-Fi mic mug, a Book It bandana, or even a banger pillowcase. And you can find it all at www.t13media.com. What's up, guys? We are live with another episode of Prime Time with Travvy T, and today my guest is none other than the host of the Stadia Source podcast, Avery, aka CharmCity. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So, I guess let's start right in the beginning. What is Stadia?
Sure. So Stadia is Google's cloud gaming platform. So back in 2019, Google came out on stage at the Game Developers Conference and announced that they were launching a brand new platform for playing games through streaming. So instead of buying a console and that sits under the TV and all of that, you simply load up the Chrome browser and you go to stadia.google.com and you click play, and then you're playing Doom Eternal or Cyberpunk 2077 or Assassin's Creed or what have you right from your browser or from your phone or from your Chromecast or from your tablet, just about any device other than iOS. You're streaming from the cloud. So it's basically like watching a YouTube video of a game, except that you're actually playing the game with the controller.
Okay. I tried the free trial. I haven't been able to play a whole lot yet, but I played some Bomberman on there. It was kind of cool. It's very similar to just playing on a PlayStation, I use a PlayStation controller even. So that was a fun thing that happened. They're not the first to do cloud gaming, correct?
So they're not the first to do it, but they're certainly the first to do it right. Back in the early bits of the 2010s and so forth, there was a couple of services called OnLive and Gaikai that were doing cloud streaming, and the latency was not great, and the lag was not great, and it's because they were dealing with technology from, X years ago, and things have certainly improved since then. At least in this space, there's also a couple of other folks who are in there who beat them to the punch just a little bit. NVIDIA, makers of popular and highly expensive graphics cards, have a service called GeForce Now, which basically lets you. It's basically a remote computer. It's a cloud computer that you can log into your Steam account or your Epic or whatever else and play the games that you bought somewhere else on GeForce Now. And then there's a service called Shadow, which is literally just a PC in the cloud. And so you would pull up Shadow and then go install Steam and install those games and stream that. And then, of course, Xbox has been tinkering around game streaming for quite some time with xCloud, their version of game streaming. So Google certainly wasn't the first to do it, but they were certainly, at least as far as I'm concerned, as a big fan of Stadia, the first to get it right and to actually provide a service that when you pick up that controller and play, you feel like you are playing off of an actual real console that might as well just be under your TV. Granted, of course, it's dependent on things like how fast is your internet connection, or everybody else in the house streaming 4K Netflix and things like that. But for most people in places where it's supported, it's just going to feel like you have the box under your TV.
Yeah. So when you said game streaming, which I don't know why I've not ever thought of it as streaming games, but because that's exactly what it is. But with you saying that, do you think this lends itself to eventually becoming a platform like maybe like Netflix? I guess Stadia already has that because they have you sign up for this. Is it Stadia Plus or
Stadia Pro?
Stadia Pro, where you sign up for it, you pay a certain monthly subscription, you get certain games to play. So do you think that becomes a more prevalent way of gaming in the future?
I definitely think so. The kicker with Stadia is And there's a new entrant as of last week into this market called Amazon Luna, which is from Amazon, the people where you buy your toilet paper from in 2 days flat, and they are taking a very different approach to this. So when you look at Stadia's business model, they do have a subscription called Stadia Pro, and it functions very similarly to Games with Gold if you're an Xbox person, where as long as you stay subscribed, every month you can claim some games, or very similar to the Epic Game Store as well. You can claim some games, and then as long as you stay subscribed, you can keep playing those games for free. Perfect example, tomorrow is October 1st. They always release the new games on the 1st of the month, and tomorrow we're getting things like Dead by Daylight. Very popular game, horror game that is coming to Stadia, launching tomorrow. And if you're subscribed to Pro, you get it for free. So you automatically can just play for free tomorrow with cross-play on Steam and other platforms. So their model is very much, if you don't subscribe to Pro, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to subscribe to Pro. If all you want to do is go play Mortal Kombat 11, then all you have to do is go to the Stadia store, put down your $60 for Mortal Kombat 11, and hit go. And then you're just playing it in 5 seconds. It's as if you bought it off the eShop or whatever else. Okay. Amazon's taking a different approach to this. Amazon is trying to do the Netflix of gaming things. So their service is called Luna Plus. And with that, you pay right now during early access, it's $5.99 a month. And you get a library of 50 games that you can stream, with more being added later. And then they're also adding other channels, they're calling them. So they're going to have like an Ubisoft channel where you can play things like Rainbow Six and Assassin's Creed and all of those things for an additional monthly fee. They haven't announced what it is, but it'll probably be somewhere between $5.99 and $9.99 or whatever. And so they really are trying to make it more the Netflix of game style, where it's, I'm going to eventually build a subscription that then gets me a streaming library of 100, 200, however many games they end up coming out with. So they're really trying to go that route, whereas Stadia is really trying to be just an actual console in the cloud, just the same as you would pay for your PlayStation games and then start playing your PlayStation games on your PlayStation.
Yeah.
Same thing. Stadia wants you to pay for your Stadia games and then just start playing them on Stadia. Similar, but different business models between the two of them.
Definitely. That's pretty on brand with Amazon, to be honest with you, because with Amazon Prime, like the Prime Video, you have your set things that come with Prime Video, but they're adding the Nickelodeon channel, the whatever it is, right? Like
Broadway HD,
Showtime,
the
MB channel. Yep. I never understood that. We're already paying for the service. Why are we paying? Why are there add-ons to the service? But that's pretty on brand. So I guess what brought I heard about Stadia right before it came out. And honestly, I thought I was intrigued by it, but it never was anything more than just being intrigued by it. I never really sought after it till we had you on the show on Debatable a few weeks ago. I decided to give it a try. But what made you just go out and be like, you know what? I need to try this. And not only do I need to try this, I need to make a podcast about it.
So I'm a Google file. Like, I am absolutely a Google person. The lights that are currently painting this room pink are controlled through Google speakers that I have throughout my entire house. The phone that is in front of me is a Pixel. I have Chromecast on my TVs. I use Google Maps, Gmail, Google Photos, everything. I'm a Google person. So when Google last spring announced, by the way, we have this cool new thing coming. It's called Stadia, and you can do all this crazy stuff, and it's just going to be in the cloud. That immediately piqued my interest. I love to play video games, but up until the past few years of my life, I've never been in a position where I really had $500 to plunk down on an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever else. And so, I'm there now, but for a very long time, my last console before Stadia, my last top line console, I owned a Switch, which is not super expensive, but my last top line console was the PlayStation 2 that I had in college.
Okay.
So I've missed a decade of gaming, 2 decades of gaming almost. So when Stadia was announced and they started announcing all these games that were going to be coming to it, I was like, Assassin's Creed, I totally want to play that. Final Fantasy 15, I totally want to play that. Borderlands, I totally want to play that. And I was finally able to go in and catch up on these things without having to plunk down the $400, $500 on a console, and without having to make the choice. One of the kickers in that is, okay, so do you get a PlayStation or do you get an Xbox? If you get an Xbox, you're going to be locked out of this world. If you get a PlayStation, you're going to be locked out of that world, and you're paying a heavy price for the privilege of getting those exclusives, which you then also have to go pay for. So granted, Stadia only has a few things that are exclusive. They're not AAA titles. They're growing, and there will be more games later. But for me, it was an easy choice to say, well, I can put down $400 plus probably another $100 for controllers and accessories, and then another $60 for this game and $50 for that game and $60 for that game. Or I can just pay the $60 and get the game and start playing the game. Now, of course, I went ahead and bought, I bought the controller. You can see it right there over my shoulder there. And I bought, some other things from them, but I didn't have to. If all I wanted to do was literally load up Assassin's Creed in my web browser that I'm on right now, I could totally do that for just the $60 that it costs. And in fact, I got it. They were running a sale, so I got it for like $30. So I didn't even pay that much. And it was an instant sale for me. There was no question in my mind that I was going to get Stadia and that I was going to enjoy having Stadia. Since then, I branched out a bit. I bought a PC that is actually physically capable of streaming game or playing, harder games. And I've been using that to play things from, I went ahead and subscribed to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate because they have streaming and they have PC games included. And so now I'm branching out and playing more things. I bought some stuff on Steam. I had to play Fall Guys. Everybody and their grandmother's playing Fall Guys. I had to play Fall Guys.
Yeah.
And so I bought that and I'm playing it. I'm really enjoying it. But Stadia still remains the number one thing that I do. So in terms of how that transitioned into becoming a podcast or becoming other things, I joined a team that was already running. The website Stadia Source is the number one source for Stadia news and reviews on the internet. We are the leaders by volume, quantity, and quality. We have millions of views and thousands of people visit the site every single day. And they had a podcast. So I saw at the very beginning of my experience with them, I had some Twitter friends from the Stadia Source crew, and one of them posted that Stadia Source was looking for a reviewer. I said, cool. I was an English major. I can totally do writing. Not a thing I have any challenges with. So I chatted with Adam, who's the reviews manager, and sent him a draft, and he said, love it. Great. Come on board the team. So I joined the team as just as a written reviewer, as a writer. And then they already had a weekly podcast. I think it was in the low 20s of episodes at that point. And one Thursday, they were like, hey, if anybody else wants to jump on, we're discussing whatever. So I jumped on. And then they had me back on the next week. And then they had me back on the next week. And then after about 4 weeks, they were like, you should just take this. Like the host, Dan, who's our editor in chief, we'll tell you up front. He loves to talk about Stadia and he loves to share Stadia. He created this website, obviously, but like hosting and things like that are not necessarily his strong suit. He's good with opinions and commentary and adding insight, but all the little stuff that goes, I mean, you're a podcast host, you know that there's all these little things that you have to do and the scripts you have to hit. You got to remember the ads and you got to hit the thank yous and you got to do all that stuff. And that was not his strong suit. Whereas I have that mindset. That's a theatrical person is who I am. So I started being the main host of the podcast end of July, I think, and now it's been a couple of months, and I host every week, Thursday evenings at 5 p.m. Stadia Source on YouTube, and I love it. It's been one of the most fun things I get to do. I look forward to Thursday evenings every single week because it's me plus a round table of other people, so editors from the site and other streamers on our channel, which I've taken and really grown, and I could certainly talk about that. And plus, we get to bring on guests and people from the community. This on tomorrow's stream, we're going to have a guy named Juggernaut, who is a streamer who was the first person to test some really cool Stadia exclusive features on YouTube, and he's coming on as our guest, next week, tomorrow. I've had streamers from across the community. I've had folks who have nothing to do with the Stadia creator community join the show. I'm going to in the near couple of weeks, we're going to have some actual game developers from Stadia's platforms joining us as well. So really, really cool thing to host the podcast, and it's the absolute highlight of my week.
There you go. Yeah, go ahead and talk about growing your channel. Are you on Twitch? Or are you on
We're on
YouTube?
YouTube
Or okay,
at the moment. We haven't branched into Twitch yet, which is weird for being a gaming channel. But I
yeah,
guess Google, YouTube, you kind of keep it in the family, right?
yeah, no, for sure.
So we around the time that I took over the podcast side of the world, they also basically said, "Hey, we could totally use somebody to organize the YouTube side." At that point, we were sitting at about 600 subscribers on YouTube, 500 to 600 subscribers, and marketing, social media, drama, theater, English, like all this stuff is wrapped up in who I am. So I was like, let's see what we can do. So over the past 2 months, I've added a team of streamers, a very diverse team of streamers from all who have interest in all kinds of different gaming genres and all different kinds of backgrounds. We've got a small business owner / mom. We've got a individual who finds time to game in between raising his kids. We've got a CPA that does streaming in his part time from his house in the mountains in Utah, and everybody in between, ambulance driver from the UK, and everybody in between. I'm sure I just missed somebody, so whoever they are, we'll find out and we'll get on me for not giving them a shout out in the group. A guy who owns another channel, and your mama knows, wears a cowboy hat every single week. You got to check out our channel and watch Anthony on our streams. He's hilarious. And he streams wearing a Galaxy Fold. He has the folding thing, and that's how he checks the YouTube comments and stuff. He wears it around his neck. It's amazing.
That's hilarious.
And so I developed the stream team. I call them the Stream Team Dream Team. To basically increase the amount of content that we have on the channel and make sure that every week we are putting out hours and hours worth of Stadia content so that folks can see for themselves, how does a game play on Stadia? Is there lag? Is there latency? Does the game feel the same way, at least to our streamers? Right. And then, is the game fun? Are they enjoying it? Since that time, we have nearly doubled our subscribers on YouTube. We're up to 1,100. So in 2 months, the channel's been around for about a year. In the last 2 months, we've doubled our subscriber base. We're just about to hit 1,100. We'll probably hit that by the end of this week. We've started the membership program, super chats, the stickers, the whole 9 yards, and are seeing revenue being generated for that, which we are turning around and putting back into growing the community and advertising, and trying to grow the brand. And we are increasing our audience day over day over day. Our streams are up. I actually just did the math yesterday to send to our stream team. Our watch hours are up 67%. Our subscribers have doubled. It's really amazing to see the community begin to rally around us, because my goal is, we're the #1 site for Stadia news and reviews. I want us to be the #1 channel for Stadia as well, and we're gonna get there. So that's kind of been my odyssey of the past 2 months, is really growing Stadia Source as Stadia itself is growing.
Absolutely. So as a content creator, as a I guess owner of a podcast network, like looking at this from a different lens, and I'm sure a lot of the people that listen to this show are similar. They're content creators, they're doing things like that. I just kind of want you to kind of like maybe go back just a little bit and just, what advice or hints, tips, whatever, do you have for content creators that, I mean, gaining 600 subscribers, 500 subscribers in that quick of a turnaround is super uncommon. It's not like it's a feat. So like, what kind of tips and tricks do you have? Also, X2I for EVA says that you're doing a great job, better than he could have done.
That is Dan. He is our he's the site editor in chief. So
awesome. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. But yeah, go ahead and just kind of tell the people what any hints or tricks you got.
Absolutely. So I have a few philosophies when it comes to social media marketing. I've been doing social media marketing for years, And I see this as just an extension of that. YouTube is another platform where you're trying to engage a community and get them engaged in what you're doing so that they come back and consume your content over and over again. That's no different than being a page on Facebook or an influencer on Instagram or getting your TikToks up and running or trying to get folks to subscribe to your OnlyFans or whatever you might be doing. It's all the same thing. It's just trying to get people who have a limited amount of brainwave to give you some of it during the week.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that play into that. Number one, is a thing that I've said forever, and it's be there. That seems ridiculously reductive, but here's what I mean by it. If you are going to be a person that wants to grow a brand on YouTube, you have to be on YouTube. Posting one video once a week is probably not enough to get people to give you their time. They'll give you that 1 hour, 2 hours once a week. But if the whole thing is you want to be a Twitch streamer, you want to be a YouTube creator, you want to be a game streamer, you can't just do 1 hour a week and expect to see growth. Now, I'm in a kind of a unique position. I have built a team around me. So I have some of the absolute best streamers in Stadia today. There are great people in the community who are making amazing content out there. And, check out stadiasource.com. We've got a creators page where you can find all these folks on channels like Cloudy with a Chance of Games and Stadia Rocks and Eddie Player and all these, the Stadia Initiative, all these great creators. But me, I wanted to have a team that was, number one, diverse. So it's not just for lack of a better term, beardy, pasty white dudes. Because there's a lot of beardy, pasty white dudes in game streaming. And so I wanted to not have that be the only thing that was represented in my channel.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to make sure that I had folks who had different interests. If everybody on the channel was all just streaming Destiny, that would not be a very interesting channel. So I've got folks that love board games and card games, so they stream Monopoly and Uno. And I've got folks that love looter shooters, so they stream Borderlands. And I got folks that stream the WWE games and the NBA 2Ks and all that stuff. But the key is I've got an expectation of my streamers that they're going to put out content every week. Now, it might only be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but I've given them creativity and license to feel like they can put out as much as they want or as little as they want, as long as they hit. I've asked for 1 hour a week is the minimum. I've got streamers that do 7, 8, 9 hours a week on my channel because they love the community. The Stadia community is very friendly. They're very much like a great big old family. And so I try not to be a douche to any of them. So they feel like they want to actually contribute. So if you look at where our channel was 2 months ago, there were a smaller group of people who were still streaming. I was putting out a video every now and again when I could do one, and Dan or Dom or Lee or any of our creators were putting out bits and pieces. But I've now built a team that is there. When I say be there, if you go onto Stadia Source almost every single day of the week from 7 a.m. in the morning till 1 a.m. at night, depending on who's streaming and what part of the world they're in, because I got creators on both sides of the pond, you're going to be able to watch. You're probably going to be able to find a video at least once a day at some point during the day where you can be there live with our creators and really enjoy being a part of the show. And we chat with our folks, and we bring them up and in stream, and we really try to make it a big deal that they're with us. So be there is my number one piece of advice. You have to produce something that people want to bring in. The second half of that is what you produce has to have quality. And that brings me to the second mantra I have, which is be awesome where you are. And the second half of that, which doesn't super apply here, is before you try to be awesome anywhere else. Be awesome where you are before you try to be awesome anywhere else. To me, is a mantra that means if you're going to produce something, if you're going to create for Instagram, you're going to be a photographer who's creating awesome shots and things, focus on a platform and make yourself awesome there. We focus on YouTube. We could probably do Twitch and try to stream in other places, but right now we focus on YouTube. And what we are trying to produce is the highest quality content possible. When you go to watch our streams, the branding is consistent, the intros, the outros, the scripting, it's all there. So when you watch a YouTube stream from Stadia Source, whether you're watching me or you're watching Dom, Adam, Dan, Carly, Anthony, Andrew, I got a lot of folks whose name starts with A, Felix, or any of my team, you're going to feel like you're a part of a Stadia Source stream. The intros, the outros, the graphics, everything feels like you're part of a Stadia Source stream. And that's because I've taken great pains over the past couple of months to really refine an identity around the site. You've heard me say it 2 or 3 times. Stadia Source is your #1 source for Stadia news and reviews. That's our tagline. And every single stream of ours, you're going to hear it at the top, you're going to hear it at the bottom, because it's part of being consistent and branding and delivering a high quality experience. If you're a streamer, those of you who are watching and who do game streams, and you start every show with, I'm just gonna, I'm going live in about 5 minutes, and oh wait, I'm already live. It's fine. Let me pull up the game. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see how's the audio? Is that fine? That's not a quality experience. Now, right. If your community digs that and it's very casual and fun, and that's fine. But you've got to up the value for them just a little bit, because you're competing with thousands, tens of thousands of other creators, whether you're doing game streaming videos or you're introducing your grandmother's recipe book to the YouTube community at large, or whatever it is that you're doing. You're competing with everybody else for hours. And in a community as small as ours, Stadia has maybe a few dozen content creators. So I have to give our audience a reason to come watch my shows, and I have to give them a reason to come watch my streams, while absolutely encouraging them to go watch everybody else's, because we love our friends and partners, and we have great media partners and who do great works, and we want them to share in the community. But you've got to produce something that your audience wants you to see. If you go out to these channels that have millions of subscribers, their production value is slick. It very well may be a guy sitting in a chair with a controller, but you're going to see branding, you're going to see intros, outros, you're going to see editing, you're going to see production value, because that is what separates the person who figured out that they could hit create account on YouTube and go live from the people who are making a job out of it, or a passion out of it. So those are my 2 big key takeaways. Be there, produce something, be there constantly, and be awesome where you are before you try to be awesome anywhere else.
It's great advice. Yeah, I mean, not much I could really add to that. So do you have anything else to say about Stadia in general?
The #1 thing I tell folks is just try it. Like, game streaming is entering this new period with xCloud from Xbox and Luna and Amazon and GeForce Now and Shadow and all these other services. It's really, we're hitting a brand new moment in video games. I think that in 5 years, maybe 10 years, we might see a PlayStation 6, but PlayStation 7 is going to be only in the cloud. Or it's going to be a digital only console. They'll stop making discs altogether, and they're going to push cloud only. There might be an Xbox Series X Prime 7 Alpha jammer, but the Xbox Series 16 500 360 Unit 4 is probably going to be cloud first. They want you to stream. There might barely even be an SSD in the box. So the key is just go try it. You might not have internet that can actually do it. You might not actually have a connection that works for you. If that's the case, that's why they make a box that you can put under your TV. Go for it. Come game with us, because most of that's cross-play anyways. And we'd love to have you play with, those of us who are playing on Stadia. But the thing that gets me, the thing that really kind of digs into my chest, is when people are like, Stadia sucks. Well, have you tried it? No, I've heard it's terrible. You've heard it's terrible. Did you try it? Go try it. Same thing. Go try Xbox game streaming. If you got an Xbox under the TV and you already subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate, if you got an Android tablet or an Android phone, you get game streaming now. They just added it for you for free if you're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate. So go try it. See if it works for you. And if so, now you know game streaming is kind of a cool thing, and it's probably going to work for you going forward.
Absolutely. That's the other thing I wanted to say. You kind of just, when you were talking about the PlayStation 6 and PlayStation 7, and then you went into the Xbox, whoever named the PlayStation 2 needs a pay raise.
We did not start a nightmare that is ending. It's almost, for anybody's ever played the Kingdom Hearts games,
Yeah.
And it's like Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, and then it's like Kingdom Hearts 3/9 divided by 4. And then Kingdom Hearts Sleep by Birth Death Night with McDonald's. And then Kingdom Hearts X-teen/4 alpha / the sine wave of tangent. Like, just give us normal naming.
Yeah.
Just do numbers.
When you try to get too creative with it, you start to alienate normalcy. You're trying to be too unique at this point. With the Xbox One, which is not the first one, which is confusing.
Yeah, and then the 360, which I guess was, well, but if you turn 360, you're just pointing the same way. I know.
Yeah.
And then there's the Xbox One X, and then there's the Xbox Series X, which is not the same as the One X, which a lot of people bought thinking they were buying the Series X. So,
There you go.
Be more, either be less creative or be more creative. Pick a direction.
Dan says he can put an X in his name because he's hardcore.
He's already got an X in his name. It's
I know, right? I was just gonna let it go. Before we get into our next segment, I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick ad real quick. Shout out to our friends at Triumph Chairs. So I'm sure whether you're using the Xbox X1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every whatever, or the PlayStation 1 through wherever we're at now, 5, or Google Stadia, you're using something to sit on. And if you're using your kitchen table chairs, I'm sure you're sick of it because I sure was. So you need to go to triumphchairs.com and scoop you up one of their luxurious, comfortable gaming chairs. And right now, since you're listening to this podcast, you know, PrimeTime Travvy T, you can get one of these Cadillac chairs using the promo code T13 at checkout. That is triumphchairs.com with the promo code T13, the letter T, the number 1, and the word 3 spelled out for 10% off. So, Avery, you are a fan of amusement parks. You tell me.
Yes, I am. I am an amusement park junkie. I sadly said that COVID took away all the things I love: buffets, Las Vegas, cruises, and theme parks, which are all things I love. And usually when you're in Las Vegas, you're eating at a buffet and going to a casino, which is kind of like a theme park. So COVID took away everything I love. But I'm a huge theme park junkie, and I have been my entire life. Some of the earliest memories of travel I have were going to Disney World with my mom, or going to. I grew up in East Tennessee. And in East Tennessee, there's a theme park called Dollywood. Don't know if you've heard of it, but it is Dolly Parton's theme. Dolly Parton, 925, what a way. She has a theme park, and it's Dollyfied the whole way through. Her big thing is butterflies. So there's butterfly exhibits and butterfly gazebos, and then all the roller coasters somewhere in them kind of sort of do like a butterfly loop to them. And when I was growing up in the 90s, child of the 80s, 90s, Dollywood was cool. It had a couple of rides and some roller coasters and stuff, and my dad loved it. My dad was a child of the Depression, and he grew up in 40s, 50s, 60s. I guess not growing up if you're that old, but he loved the 1950s and the Elvis and the music and all that stuff. And they've got a thing called Jukebox Junction, which is all about the 1950s and the diners and Elvis and doo-wop and all that stuff. And so we would go to Dollywood. I was maybe 11, 12 at this point. And he would just go sit in that area, and I would just have free roam of the park. And I go wherever I wanted and ride some roller coasters and do things. And but it was very much like a park kind of sort of for old people. They had this thing called Craftsman's Valley where you can go watch blacksmiths make metal hanging sculptures for your wall. And
that's so southern.
It's so southern. You can even tell I'm going, wow, as the more I talk about it, the more southern I get. And of course you can eat at Aunt Granny's buffet where you can get the fried chicken and the chicken and dumplings and the sweet butter corn. And
hold up, you said Aunt Granny's?
Aunt Granny. There was apparently a woman in Dolly Parton's life that she called Aunt Granny. And so
that's also very southern.
Unbelievably southern. There's Miss Lillian's Chicken Shack, where Miss Lillian, who is another woman in her life at some point, it's just all fried chicken, and it's a fried chicken buffet in the park, and there's a woman that walks around with a banjo and a rubber chicken hat that sings chicken-themed songs, like regular songs, but she just replaced things with Block Bok or Chicken Chicken or Wing Wing or whatever. That's Dollywood. That was Dollywood in the 90s. Flash forward to today, Dollywood has some of the best roller coasters in the nation. They were the first theme park in the United States to roll out a wing coaster. A wing coaster, the carriage of the roller coaster, it's even more started in the Stadia now. The carriage of the roller coaster sits on the track, but the seats sit on either side. Those of you who are watching can see what I'm doing, but imagine that I'm doing the hang 10 symbol on either side horizontally. So when you're sitting on that, your legs are just hanging off in space. And then on the other side of the carriage is another group of riders whose legs are just hanging off in space. It's like a bird's wings. And the ride is called Wild Eagle. And it does flips and loops and corkscrews and all this stuff. And you're just down the mountains of East Tennessee, the Smoky Mountains. And it's amazing. They put in 2016, 2017, they rolled out the first launched wooden coaster in the world, I believe, where it's called Lightning Rod. So you're on a wooden coaster, that kind of coaster, but it shoots you out of the gate at 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, whatever it is, and just launches you. So they've become known for becoming a killer roller coaster hub in the Southeast. But then they also still have Aunt Granny's Buffet and the Jukebox Junction and all that old people stuff. So you can totally just get the whole dang family, granny down to grandchild, and take them to Dollywood and enjoy that. So that's where I grew up, and that kind of thing. I desperately miss Dollywood, and I would go back now if my wife would let me, mask and all. But from there to your Six Flags, I will go to any theme park in the nation. I don't care if it's literally I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and we have a Six Flags up here that is not great. Like, take all the things you've heard about Baltimore being kind of, and then turn that into a Six Flags. So there's like no trees, and nothing's been painted in years, and like maybe there are trash cans that aren't overflowing, and it's just like it's the ratchetiest Six Flags you can imagine. I have season passes. I will still go to that Six Flags as well as any other Six Flags in the nation. I will go to Cedar Fair Parks and Cedar Point in Ohio. I will go to all of Disney. I will go to any theme park you put in front of me and have an absolute blast. That's the 15-minute explanation of why I love theme parks.
I'm from Ohio, so I've actually never been to Cedar Point. Have
you been to Kings Island at least?
I have. Kings Island is the only place I've ever been. The only amusement park I've ever been.
Mason, Ohio.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I have terrible motion sickness. I found out when I was a kid, and I would ride at the county fair, and you'd have all the rides at the county fair are bullshit, and all you do is spin around. You don't do anything.
Every last one of them wants to make you puke. That's the only
that's
want to make you puke out all the food that you just the $7 corn dog that you just ate. They want you to get rid of it, and then you're like, "Well, I'm still hungry." So then you go buy another $7 corn dog, and then you get on the tilt-a-whirl, and you again, and then you go buy a $6 funnel cake. And then you come back to the Scrambler, which is the exact same ride. It's just in a circle instead of a triangle. Yeah, I love state fairs because I love hot dogs and funnel cakes and curly fries and all the stuff that you can buy at state fairs, all the deep fried goodness. But I won't ride anything at a state fair because every last thing there is designed to just blah.
Exactly. It's not that was my first foray into, I got onto what's called the umbrella ride, which is like a Ferris wheel, but 35 times faster for no reason.
Yep.
So, and that made me puke. That was my first time with it. I mean, I've always gotten car sick, so maybe I should have known. You know what I mean? But then I got a few summers ago, I went with my friends to Kings Island. I'd been to Kings Island before, and I'd ridden the kids' rides and all that, whatever. It was all good. And I rode my first roller coaster. I rode the Vortex. Was my first one, which is actually I guess it's a classic Kings Island.
It's a pretty tame roller coaster compared to others.
Well, it was not fun.
Oh,
I threw up on that. So
after you got off, or while you were on it?
After I got off, yeah.
Okay.
And but I didn't quit. I got on one. I got on another one. I got on a different one that was kind of like the winged ones you were just talking about, and I puked again. And then after that one, I gave up. I was like,
you
this is probably
tried
not going to work.
Dramamine? Like,
Yeah.
Ginger? Okay.
Yeah, I've tried it. It wasn't working for me. It's to the point now where I'm just like, the fun in the moment didn't outweigh the not fun after.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. I can't even. I'll tell you, I'm getting there. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I'm getting to a point where I have to take Dramamine if I'm going to a coaster park. I got to take Dramamine, and I have to take like ibuprofen.
Yeah,
I have to preload myself, and then hit an Aleve halfway through the day, and then take a Tylenol after the 6th row because I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah,
it's not going to stop me. I'm going to be 90 years old, and if I can still sit in the chair, I'm going to be getting on these things. I'll deal with it later. But so there's where you kind of get into this situation where there are two types of theme parks now. There are experience parks and there are ride parks. You look at like a Six Flags. Six Flags is a ride park. That's all there is to do there. They've got like sort of show things like the Batman Stuntacular, and it's 15 minutes. You're like, oh, it's just the Batmobile and he jumped off a thing, whatever. But you're not going to Six Flags to watch the shows. You're going to Six Flags because you just want to ride roller coasters until you puke. That's why you go to Six Flags. Whereas there are this other, and really it's where the concept of the theme park came from, are places like Universal and Disney, where the whole conceit of that place is to go and experience being in another time, another place for a while, or being in a themed land for a while. Have you been to any of the Orlando parks?
I have not. I went to Orlando when I was 18, and I went with my girlfriend, but we went to downtown Disney because we couldn't afford to go to actual Disney, and that was fun.
It's super, and now they've completely redesigned the entire thing. They've turned it into this thing called Disney Springs, and I'll go and spend just a day there because it's beautiful and it's around this big lake, and there's plenty of stuff to do there. So when you're looking at one of those kind of parks, these are the parks that I would send you to if you are a motion sickness kind of person. There are some things you're not going to be able to do there because there are things like the Universal Orlando. They've got the Harry Potter rides.
Yeah,
and the Harry Potter rides are universally 3D rides where you're wearing the glasses and you are in a carriage of some nature, but you're basically like, you swing over here and then you watch a scene. Oh, he's on the Quidditch pitch. And then you swing over here and you watch, oh, the dragon's chasing us. And then you go up and down and you swirl. And then you're back over here and you're watching a 3D screen again. I get more motion sick on those than any other kind of ride because for half the ride, you're sitting on a little platform, kind of doing this to simulate and there's a wind machine.
Yeah.
You're not moving. And lizard brain knows that you're not moving. So lizard brain says, you must have ingested some bad berries. We need to get them out of you. And that's motion sickness. So those are not great. But they're walking around Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley and stuff is amazing. And there's like the Simpsons area, and there's the Jurassic Park and stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to do at those kind of parks that don't require you to get on a ride. And there's some rides that you might be able to do well enough. There are a couple of very tame coasters there. The Flight of the Hippogriff is one of them. There are also some 3D ride type things that are not super jerky, super ride things like Shrek 4D is one of them. Things like that. There's also Skull Island, which is you're basically in a cart, like a 16-passenger cart, and you're touring the island. And oh no, there's King Kong, and then you go around a corner, and you're getting away from the giant lizards or whatever. But there's not a lot of like quick movement up and down things, and you're wearing the 3D glasses, but there's not a lot of shaky, rattly, rolly stuff. So there are definitely some things at those kind of parks that people with motion sickness can absolutely do and have a blast at. Disney, even more so. There aren't that many rides at Disney. Everybody thinks about Disney as a theme park with rides, but my wife and I went there for our honeymoon. We went to the Magic Kingdom, and we probably rode 8 things. Because a lot of the rides are like the Winnie the Pooh ride, which was super fun, but you're sitting in a little honeypot carriage and you move through the story and it's just super slow. And then, oh, look, there's Winnie and there's Piglet and there's Tigger and it's super slow and nice. But there's no motion. Like it's just, Peter Pan, you're just doing just up and down and
Yeah.
moving in a circle, and Haunted Mansion moving in a circle around the thing. So there's plenty of stuff at Walt Disney World for folks who are into those kind of things and who have motion sickness and would not do well with actual coasters. There are plenty of actual coasters in these parks, but those are most definitely a better, like a Six Flags will never be a place you should ever go if you are the person that gets off a roller coaster and blah. Like Cedar Fair parks, I love Cedar Fair parks, they're amazing, but Cedar Point in Sandusky is a coaster park through and through. It's literally their name. They call themselves America's Roller Coast because they're on Lake Erie.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything for you to do there if you're not a coaster person, other than eat funnel cakes and hot dogs and watch other people get on the roller coasters and go, and get the Ferris wheel or whatever else.
Keith also went. Yeah, Keith also went to Magic Kingdom for his honeymoon. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about Kings Island. Like after I went there as an adult, like I've been there as a kid, but like as a kid, I wasn't doing anything anyway. You know what I mean? Like we were riding in the kids area. That was what it was. But after going there as an adult with my friends, I realized that there was no reason for me to go there and pay, what was it, 50, 60, 70 bucks to watch other people ride rides, because that's ended up what happened. I mean, like they have the Scooby-Doo ride I can do. I don't even think it's Scooby-Doo anymore. It's like it's just a regular, just a Ghostbusters theme. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is every time I've been to Kings Island, there's been a new branding. Like at one point it was Boomerang or Hanna-Barbera. I'm sorry. Then it was Nickelodeon.
Hanna-Barbera.
Then it was Nickelodeon because it was Paramount's Kings Island.
Yep.
Then it was what was it? The Peanuts.
Yep.
And now I think it's just
Cedar Fair owns them. So yeah, now it's
just regular. I think it's just regular, like generic cartoon characters.
Could be. Oh, it's Mr. Dupe.
Yeah,
Mr.
like
Dupe or whatever.
Like there's no real like it's always been characters that I mean iconic characters, but now it's just like, yeah, the blue guy. That's what it is.
Oh, I've always wanted to meet the blue guy. Yay!
But I just decided it wasn't for me. But I'm kind of glad to hear that the Universal and Disney has stuff that I might be able to actually experience and enjoy, because that is one of the things I want to do before I die, I guess, is go to the Orlando parks. There's another one, isn't there? Epcot.
The Universal Orlando is Universal Studios, which has a few shows, and the rides there tend to be more. It's a lot of 3D simulators is a lot of what their rides are, and then they have one roller coaster, the Rock and Roller Coaster. Or Rip Ride Rocket, excuse me. And then the sister park to that is Universal's Islands of Adventure, opened in 2000. I know because I went there during the first season when it was 2000. And that is where your Harry Potter started. They've built it into Universal Studios now, and that is where your Jurassic Park is. That's where your Marvel Superhero Island is. Toon Lagoon, which is themed toward the Federated or Consolidated Comics, which is Popeye and Dudley Do Right and all of those.
Okay.
And I'm missing a land. It was Lost Continent. It's still Lost Continent, but they took out almost everything to turn it into Harry Potter Land. So there's like a restaurant, and that's like the only thing there is to do there now. But it's nice looking, and it's a nice place. And then the port of entry, which is the entryway to it. So that's the Universal Orlando park. They're opening a third park. It's been put on hold thanks to, but the third park was going to be called Universal's Epic Universe. And that was going to be Universal Monsters themed. It was going to have a How to Train Your Dragon area. Going to have yet another Harry Potter was going to be in there. And then there in a Super Nintendo world. There's going to be Super Nintendo finally cool. In a theme park there, and they opened one in Universal Studios Japan, but we're gonna have it here with like a Mario Kart ride and like a Donkey Kong roller coaster, and all kind. It was super killer. All been put on hold now, of course, but maybe one day we'll get all that back. So that's the Universal. That's Universal's Universal Orlando. It's Universal Orlando Resorts, what they call that. Across the way in Kissimmee, you've got Walt Disney World. So Walt Disney World is a collection of 4 theme parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. Every park is different. It's very, very different between the four of them. But Magic Kingdom is more when you think Disney, your Mickey and your princesses and Tomorrowland and Fantasyland and all that stuff. That's Magic Kingdom. Epcot is your nerdy place. So Epcot is where they've got at the front of it the Future World, where it's all the science experiment looking stuff and the feature innovations of the future and all those kind of things. And then the back half of it is the World Showcase. So that's a big old lagoon. And around the lagoon, you're going from like Mexico to Japan to Norway to India to and all these locations, Italy. And there's food from every culture that they have, and they do shows and all that kind of stuff. Epcot's one that you could probably do as well. There's no rides at Epcot.
Yeah.
There's a couple of little things, but they're like you sit in a boat and you go around talking about agriculture. That's kind of it. Then there's Hollywood Studios, which is where they have like movie themed rides. They're kind of answer to Universal Studios, and there's some more rides there, but there's a lot of shows there as well. There's usually there's a big theater there where they put on the Beauty and the Beast musical, but it's abridged, so 45 minutes, or the Frozen musical, or Aladdin, or whatever else. And then there's Animal Kingdom, which is half zoo safari thing, half theme park. And there's got like the Avatar Pandora area where it's like you're seeing the floating mountains and riding rides. And then they have a couple other coasters and stuff. One thing I mentioned or forgot was at the Hollywood Studios. That's also where the new Star Wars stuff is. So Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, where you're walking into, you feel like you were on a Star Wars planet called Batuu, and you can build your own lightsaber, and you can pilot the Millennium Falcon and all that kind of stuff. Not sure how well you do at those, but I think there are two rides there, and I think the second one, Rise of the Resistance, might not be as motion-y, but I haven't rode it, so I don't know. So that's the Disney, and then they have a couple of water parks. Universal has a third gate called Cabana Bay, which is a water park attached to a really killer. No, sorry, Volcano. Why is it leaving? Cabana Bay is the name of the hotel, and the name of I think it's Volcano Bay. That's going to bother me. So I might not be looking it up on another screen that I have to my left here. Water park, Volcano Bay. I knew it was something Bay. Attached to Cabana Bay, which is one of the most awesome hotels I've ever stayed at. It's very 1950s themed. Disney has a couple of, Blizzard Beach, Typhoon Lagoon. They've got water parks and a bunch of other stuff. And then they've got Disney Springs, which is their big shopping district. Universal has City Walk, which is their big shopping district. So certainly for folks who are not coaster people, Orlando's going to be your better bet because there's just so much other stuff to do there, shows to watch and more docile rides to ride. And it's not, I'm in my 30s, my wife's in her 30s. We went to the Magic Kingdom and it was wonderful. And yes, there were plenty of little 6-year-old girls wearing Princess Tiana dresses and stuff, but we were grown-ass adults having an absolutely delightful time watching the fireworks and the castle 3D projections that they do and riding a few rides and getting on the Peter Pan. My wife, we started the day with a breakfast buffet, again, things that COVID took away from me, at the Crystal Palace, which was a Winnie the Pooh themed extravaganza. It's themed toward Winnie the Pooh. And so during we're eating our bacon and Mickey shaped pancakes and all this stuff, or waffles, and out comes Eeyore. Out comes Eeyore and Tigger and Piglet. And you could have just told my wife somebody gave her a free Tesla. Granted, it would be more to me than her because I'm the tech guy. When she saw Eeyore come out, it was like, Eeyore, he's here. He's actually here. He's coming over here. We were the first people to get to see any of the characters because we were the first people in the door. And so here comes Eeyore. And she's just this light, just bursting from her, and she got to hug him and like take pictures with him. And then here comes Tigger, and here comes Piglet, and here comes Pooh. And so every time I look at the photos from our honeymoon, just watching her, that was worth the entire trip to me, watching her see these. And then she loves the princesses, so she got to meet Belle and Tiana and Anna and Elsa and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, and she got to Cinderella. She got to meet all these people. We know they're just characters in a suit, or very attractive blondes that have been painted up to look like a princess. That's what we know. That's what this is. But you just don't feel that way when you're there. We one of the things we saw at Epcot, there was a movie that came out a few years back called Big Hero 6. Don't know if you remember it, but it was this Baymax, this big robot character set in the future. And so they brought out Baymax in a meet and greet, and it's a guy wearing like there's like a plastic head and an inflatable body. Because the character is like this big round, like take Eve from Wall-E and blow it up to 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so this big old inflatable like boom, 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 robot walks out, and my wife was like, and like he does this thing where he fist bumps and he goes, and she did that. It was amazing. You just don't feel like you're looking at characters. You don't feel like you're looking at actors. So it's magical, and that's what these theme parks really do. When you walk into Hogsmeade in Harry Potter, and you cross through platform 9 3/4 to go into Diagon Alley, it's just magical. Like you get off the Hogwarts Express, it's the train, and you're riding the train, and there's this little video screen that plays, like you can hear Harry Potter walking through the halls and talking to Hermione and stuff. And then you get off, and there's snow on the rooftops. It's 98 degrees in Orlando in June, but there's snow on the rooftops in the village, and people are walking around with their wands and casting spells and making stuff happen because it's a thing that Universal did. It's just magic. All of the Orlando theme parks are just magic.
That's awesome. So before we move on to our final segment, go ahead and give me your top 3. I'm gonna make you full screen. Give me your top 3 amusement parks you've ever been to.
Can I bundle the resorts together, or do I have to pick individuals out of the resorts?
You can bundle the resorts together.
Okay. I'm gonna say this might be a controversial pick for those who are fans of the Orlando ones, but I'm gonna put Dollywood as number 1. I got nostalgia. It's my heart. It's where I'm from, and they have fried chicken buffets. You can't go wrong. Then I'm gonna say Universal Orlando, and it's only because I think it's a little bit more accessible. The costs are slightly lower. The rides are amazing. What they've done to really develop immersive worlds like Harry Potter are the Wizarding World are really huge. And then of course you gotta have Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom in there. It'd be real tough to differentiate my love for Universal Orlando Resort and Walt Disney World, because they're different, but they're real close and they're really awesome. So that's kind of what I'd have to say for my top 3: Dollywood, Universal Orlando Resort, Walt Disney World Resort.
Okay. I like to hear it. I like it. Let's run an ad right quick. Ladies and gentlemen. So do you guys like raunchy, no rules, uncensored raw comedy? Do you like hot takes and unpopular opinions? Do you like hearing the truth no matter who it offends? Well, you may have a bad guy in you. And let me tell you, the Bad Guy Has Spoken podcast is one of the greatest shows of our generation. The only way to find it is to go to www.t13media.com/shows and click that link. So we have one more segment. Something that's near and dear and close to your heart is blood banking. I'll be honest with you. I haven't known a lot about any of these subjects today, but I know the least about this subject.
If you're gonna go, I gotta go red for blood banking.
Okay.
Blood banking. Yeah. So blood banking, there are a couple of reasons that I'm passionate about blood banking and blood donation and all of that. A couple of those reasons being, so in 2010, I got married, and it wasn't great, and there were issues, and we didn't stay married, as evidenced by the fact that I'm with my wonderful, lovely wife.
Happens to the best of us.
Happens to the best of us. But I went through a period of time where I was homeless, where my fiance and then wife and I were living on people's couches, where cars repoed, job loss. She had an injury that made her have to quit her job, and hadn't been there long enough to qualify for unemployment. So we were literally like eating ramen noodles because that was all we could afford, not because we wanted to. I was doing a little part-time gig at a church, running their media, and for that I got I think $50 a week or something. And that plus the food pantry at that church were what we lived on. That period of my life, I call it the dark times. The dark times lasted for about 9 months. And then in July of 2011, I saw a job posting. I'd been applying and applying and applying, and I had a couple of part-time jobs that didn't work out, and one place just closed, and all these other things. And in July 2011, I saw this ad for a telerecruiter position, a person who calls blood donors to try to get them to come and donate blood at a local blood bank in Tennessee. And so I applied for the job, and I got the job. It was part-time, 20 hours a week, calling blood donors in Fort Payne, Alabama, trying to get them on the door, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. But it saved my life. That job, eventually I went full time there, allowed us to move out, to get our own place, to have a life that wasn't just subsistence farming. And when things didn't work out for that particular relationship, I continued to work at the blood bank, and it was the only thing that was keeping me going because I went from 2 incomes down to 1. And then eventually I made my way into management there, and now I work for a software company that makes software for blood banks. So I'm still in the industry, even if I'm not specifically working for a blood bank itself. But I credit blood banking for saving my life in a way that is very different from how blood donation and blood banking saves real lives every day. Every single day in this country, by the time we finish this podcast, there will have been maybe a couple of dozen folks who needed a blood transfusion while we were on the phone today. Or on the phone, while I dialed you up on the Rolodex today. While we've been on today, it's I can't remember what the stat is. I think it's every 8 minutes someone needs blood in the United States. And so in a real sense, the work of blood banks across the United States, whether they're small, independent local blood banks, whether they are large national organizations like the Red Cross, they are keeping patients in the hospital who found themselves lying in a bed with leukemia or lymphoma, or found themselves caught in a fire and needing plasma, or found themselves attached to a ventilator because they caught COVID. Their lives are being saved every day because of the work of, number one, the blood banks that process and keep blood safe and make it available to those local hospitals that need it. And number two, and more importantly, the blood donors who volunteer their time for absolutely no pay, because it's not illegal in the United States to pay for blood donation, and we can talk about all that, who volunteer their time to go in and save some lives. That is, to me, one of the most amazing industries in the United States. The fact that there are millions of people every year who go to their local blood bank and sit in a chair for 45 minutes to sometimes even 2 hours, depending on what type of blood donation they're doing, and literally give of themselves. Using blood, sweat, and tears, they're literally giving the blood out of their body to then go get processed by the blood bank into a safe transfusible component, and then go to a patient who just got in a car wreck and is bleeding out on the side of the road and gets put in an ambulance and flown to the hospital. And while they're in that ambulance or in that air ambulance in the helicopter, are getting units of blood products transfused into them to keep them from dying. That to me is incredible. It's amazing. And the fact that I got to be a part of that world on the side of bringing donors into the door and trying to get them to donate, but then now helping blood banks across the nation from Alaska to Florida recruit donors and bring them in the doors and keep their blood products safe and help their hospital partners with inventory and all the other software that we make. I love it. I've never had a job before that I would qualify as a career. I've always had jobs. I think we've all kind of been there. You've had something that gives you a paycheck on every other Friday. And that's how you buy life. And a lot of folks, they'll say, if your job is what is paying the bills, find something else to be passionate about and let the job pay for the passion. I'm lucky enough to be in a position now where I have the passion. I have a job that lets me save lives, or at least facilitate other people saving lives every single day. And I love it.
That's awesome. So, fun fact about me is I do not like needles. I've never been the guy to donate blood. I don't like being stuck with needles. Um, However, that is going to change soon because as we're sitting here talking, I don't even know if I've told you this yet, but I actually have contracted COVID-19. So I've been on quarantine for like
wow.
I started showing symptoms last Wednesday. I'm kind of on the tail end of it now. But
Thankfully, we're socially distanced here.
yeah, right. We were definitely socially distanced by a few cities. Um and but the one of the things is they recommend you donate your plasma
Yes.
afterwards.
Convalescent
So
plasma.
I am definitely going to do that because I mean if it helps, it helps. I mean I'd like the world to go back to normal as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is a process called convalescent plasma. I actually literally 6 hours ago did an hour-long webinar
Okay.
for the blood banks across the nation, all about convalescent plasma and its history and its uses. So I know a lot about this now all of a sudden that I didn't know before because I had to prep for this webinar and reading FDA guidance and all that kind of stuff. So the FDA earlier this year approved what's called an emergency use authorization, as well as investigational new drug procedures to allow convalescent plasma. The concept of transfusing blood products from someone who's recovered from a disease into someone suffering from the disease is over a century old. It was done in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, with measles. A young boy at a boys' school contracted measles, recovered, and then there was an outbreak at the school. So they took his blood plasma and transfused it into other boys and cured or at least reduced symptoms in all of them. Nobody died because of that. And so for decades, for over a century, people have been taking serum or plasma or components from antibody containing components from recovered patients and using that to treat diseases, whether it's Ebola or H5N1, the swine flu, all those kind of things. So quick primer on what all that is. I'll tell you kind of what the blood side is and then what the procedure side is. So in your blood, the blood that is in your red veins right now, there are multiple different types of cells. You've got red blood cells, which are the oxygen transport devices. The reason that they're red is because they have iron in them, or hema, and that's where hemoglobin comes from, if you've ever heard that term. And the hema attaches to oxygen molecules and carries it through your blood and then delivers it at your liver and your heart and your kidneys and your blood cells and everything else, brain cells and everything else that you need oxygen for. There's also platelets. Platelets are your clotting factor. So if you've ever cut yourself, accidentally, or stabbed yourself with a knife or whatever, don't ever reach for a falling knife. By the way, a falling knife has no handle. Then what is happening is immediately your body sends signals to mobilize your platelets to go seal up that wound. So eventually, when that blood stops pouring out of you, and eventually when the bleeding stops, it is because the cut has been sealed over with sticky particles called platelets, which seal up that blood. The third major component of your blood is called plasma. You probably are familiar with donating plasma at places like CSL Plasma, Octapharma, Kedrion Plasma, and so forth. When you're donating plasma at those locations for compensation, they're actually going to take that plasma and put it in a process called fractionation, which creates medications, but it's not going to be transfused. You're not actually going to take that plasma and transfuse it. But when you're donating plasma at a volunteer blood bank, they're going to use that. Plasma is mostly the I don't say filler, but it's the liquid volume that makes up the liquid of your blood. So if you're in a car wreck, they're not only going to give you red cells to make sure that oxygen can flow, but they're going to give you plasma to make sure there's liquid for the red cells to flow in. The plasma also contains a lot of your antibodies. So when you get an infection, when you get the flu and you recover from the flu, your body creates antibodies to help you fight it the next time. Your immune system is creating antibodies to help you fight it the next time you get exposed to it. For COVID patients, when you recover from COVID-19, you're recovering because your body has mobilized the immune system and is sending in those white blood cells and sending in those antibodies to go fight off the virus. And eventually, hopefully, you win. So when that happens, those cells don't go away. not immediately, you still have all of those military fighters in your bloodstream ready to fight it again if it comes back. We don't know yet how effective long-term COVID antibodies are. It's not been around long enough to really know if a year from now you're still immune. But at least there are promising studies that show that you do get some form of immunity from having had COVID to getting reinfection. Your body is going to produce those. It now has a blueprint. So it knows, here's how I produce those antibodies, and I'm just going to keep them running in the system so that I can have them just in case this comes back around. So what that means is if you have become infected and you recover, you convalesce from having COVID-19, then after a period of time, you have to wait at least 14 days from the last day you have symptoms. You can then take your COVID-19 diagnosis to your local blood bank, and as long as you meet other criteria like health and wellness and other things, and you've fully recovered, clean bill of health, then you can donate that plasma. And what they're going to do is they're going to make sure that it's safe and process it, and then all of those antigens that are in your plasma, those antibodies that are in your plasma, when you are in the hospital and you've got a life-threatening situation with COVID, you're on a ventilator or you have decreased blood oxygenation or other things, they can transfuse that plasma from the recovered patient into you. And what that's going to hopefully, what studies are showing that does is it kickstarts. It's basically sending in reinforcements. Your body's already trying to produce these antibodies to save you. You're calling in the troops from somebody else who made it and came out on the other side. So convalescent plasma is huge right now. If you are watching this, whether you're a Travvy T or not, and you have recovered from COVID-19, or you've gone out and you've got the nose swab, which is disturbing to me, or you got the blood test, and it says you had COVID, you're okay now, go donate plasma. If you're eligible. Now, you might not be eligible if you have other coexisting factors, if you're currently a cancer patient, if you have HIV, you have other things that might be going on, but most of the nation is eligible to donate blood, and most people do not. Only about 20% of the total population that could ever do. Right now, more than ever, it is critical for people who have recovered from convalescent plasma, because we've seen signs like the mortality rate decreases by 3 or 4 or 5% or more in people who receive convalescent plasma, up to 11% if they receive it quickly. Studies from the Mayo Clinic, studies from New Haven Hospital are increasing on this to show that it is a safe treatment. And its efficacy is being studied, but it seems to be effective. To me, I'll take a seems to be over nothing. If I contract the situation and I'm in a situation where it's life-threatening enough that I need it, I'll take a 10% higher chance of surviving. Absolutely. Put that convalescent plasma in me. So yes, when you, Travvy, are feeling better and you are 100% recovered and you've had no symptoms for 14 days, certainly go donate blood. And let's talk about that process and what it's like and how to make it a good experience for you.
Yeah,
I definitely want to give you a chance to have a word in edgewise, because I know that of the hour 12 we've been going, I've probably spoken for an hour 10 of that. So.
No, that's fine. That's how the show's supposed to be. Yeah, I agree with you. Just if you can help this out, go do it. I mean, it's like it's the same thing as me asking you wear your mask and stay 6 feet apart and just be a good human, and not to be political or, I mean, to me, this isn't politics, this is science, but I know someone's out there is going to turn it into a politics thing, and I don't care about your right to not wear a mask. I care about the right to fucking live. So let these people live and wear your mask and do the things that you're supposed to do. I mean, I've done all the things. I've been careful, and I still got it. So let's at least continue, because I'm not wishing this on my worst enemy. It's not. I had what is considered a mild case. Also, I'm just noticing I'm disappearing from the screen here.
Your COVID is fading you into the.
No. It really is. It's just there's oh, you're feeling a little green. Get what I did?
You're PrimeTime.
Yeah, it's just I don't want it to be a thing where someone is going to get a severe case of this, because I can't imagine what severe case is, because I feel like I'm 95 years old. I can't walk from my bedroom to my kitchen without having to sit down and take a break. That's how bad this is. But you were saying something about how it's illegal to pay for blood. Can you explain that?
Yeah.
That sounds odd.
It's what it is the blood supply is all volunteer in the United States. The transfusible blood supply is all volunteer. Not every country does it that way. Some countries pay for blood donations, but what the FDA has determined, as well as the American Association of Blood Banks, or AABB, have determined over time, is that an all volunteer blood supply is safer. If I'm offering you $100 to come donate blood, you have a much greater incentive to lie on the questionnaire. So let's talk about what your experience is going to be like next week, or when you're fully recovered and you go donate. So Travvy goes down to his local blood bank and goes to donate blood. Number one, book an appointment. Go online to their website. They will have a donor portal where you can book an appointment, whether it's Red Cross or somebody else. Odds are good you're actually going to be using my software to book that appointment,
Awesome.
or our app. Depending on which blood center you're local to. Do you know the name of your local blood center?
I don't. I haven't looked into it yet.
Reveal. But there are plenty of local blood centers out there that can help you. So go online, book your appointment. They might require you to call them if you're convalescent plasma booking, which is okay. Give them a call. They'll book your appointment because they need to make sure that they know when people are coming. There's some steps that they have to take to label the blood and everything. So you've got your appointment. It's time for you to go in. Before you even go to your blood donor appointment, two things you need to do. Number one, the day before, start hydrating. Drink a lot more water than you normally would. If you normally drink 4 glasses a day, make it 8. Because you need to be well hydrated. That serum in your blood that makes the blood flow very well, you're going to have a faster and less painful experience if you're well hydrated, with less side effects afterwards. So hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You're going to drink a lot of water the day before. You're going to drink a lot of water the day of. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Number 2, eat before you donate. A lot of people have that thing in their head about, well, I'm going to the doctor's, right? You're not supposed to eat. That is not the case with blood donation. You must eat. And you need to eat 1 to 4 hours before you go donate. Don't do it right before you go donate. Nothing will metabolize. Don't eat breakfast at 8 a.m. and then not eat lunch and then go donate at 4 o'clock. Not a good idea, and I'll tell you why. Eat a good meal 1 to 4 hours before you go donate. It's a good idea to eat a meal that's rich in iron, so leafy greens, red meat, beans. If you are not a meat eater, it's perfectly fine. There are plenty of other sources for iron, but eat a big meal, like a good size meal. Don't do the bagel and cream cheese and think that's enough. You're gonna want to have food on your stomach, and you're gonna want to give it time to begin metabolizing. The reason I'm asking you to do those things, Travis, and then whoever else donates, is because the donation process is a medical procedure. You are going to have a needle in your arm for a short period of time. Depending on what you're doing, if you're donating plasma, it's a little bit of a longer process. You might be in the chair for an hour to an hour and a half, but your body recognizes that something's happening. And it's going to react. And it will react less if you're well hydrated. Common side effects of blood donation include dizziness, faintness, blood pressure changes, and things of that nature. So you might experience a little bit of dizziness. You might experience a little bit of nausea. You might experience a little bit of faintness. That's to be expected. It goes away quickly. You're not going to be feeling like that in 2 days. You might have a little bit of bruising at the site where you got drawn. That'll go away quickly as well. But you will feel better after this. Your body replenishes that plasma in a couple of days, so you're not going to be without your plasma for very, very long. I'll tell you one other good thing about donating in just a minute. Remind me to mention drinking. So you've donated, so you've eaten, you've hydrated, you're ready to go. You head to your local blood bank, take a photo ID. You're going to need it when you go in. If you're donating convalescent plasma, you're going to need the documentation behind that, either your test results from the last time you got swabbed or blood stuck, or you're going to need to take in whatever doctor's information from your diagnosis with you to prove that you have the COVID-19 antibodies in your system. So you have to take the paperwork to make sure that you bring that with you, or they'll just turn you away. Then you're going to go to the front desk, wear your mask. You're going to be wearing a mask the entire time that you're in the chair. Rub the hand sanitizer, go check in at the front desk. They're going to check you in. They're going to take your temperature. Right now, everybody's doing temperature taking and to make sure that you're not currently running a fever. And then you're going to be asked a series of questions. This is called the Donor History Questionnaire, the DHQ. The DHQ is going to cover things like, have you ever lived outside the country? Have you recently traveled to an area that has a risk of malaria? Have you, let's put it on the table. Have you ever had sex with a man if you are a man? Or have you, as a woman, ever had sex with a man who has had sex with a man? The FDA is working on having better opinions about safety concerning homosexuals, bisexuals, pansexuals, etc. MSM, men who have sex with men. But they're not there yet. They've recently relaxed the guidelines. It used to be a permanent deferral. You were banned forever. Then they moved it down to a year, and with the pandemic, they moved it down to 3 months. So if you, like me, are a bisexual individual, and I've been married for a year and with my wife for 5 years, haven't engaged in that side of my personality in many years, I'm good. I'm clear. It's been at least 3 months. If you are a gay man or bi man who tends to go that way, and you've just had a dry spell for 3 months, as long as you haven't been on Grindr for 3 months, you're probably good. So you can go donate blood. But there's going to ask you a lot of very, very personal questions. Have you ever intravenously injected drugs? Things like that. The reason they're asking you all these questions is to make sure that things that are risk behaviors or situations where you might have been exposed to a disease, like if you lived overseas and in a mad cow situation, which those rules have changed this year as well. They're trying to screen you out in advance because they're going to test the blood. They're going to test it for HIV. They're going to test it for gonorrhea. They're going to test it for West Nile virus and dengue fever and babesiosis and all these horrible sounding diseases. They're going to test all that. But no test is 100% effective. Even if that test is 99.99% effective, that means in 10,000 units of blood, and remember I said there are millions of donations a year, one of those units is going to have something in it you don't want. So that's why they ask, or could have something in it you don't want, because the didn't pick up. So be aware that they're going to ask you these questions. Once you finish that, they're going to give you a bit of a mini physical. They're going to weigh you. They're going to take your iron level. You have to have a high enough iron level to donate blood because we need your oxygen to keep flowing afterwards. The requirements for males and females are different, but they're gonna do a finger stick, and they're going to put your blood on a little dropper, and they're going to put in a machine called a HemoQ or whatever they're using, and that's going to check your iron level. Assuming you meet all the criteria, no issues on the questionnaire, no issues in the physical, no issues in the iron draw, you're going to get in the chair. For a normal blood donation, normal whole blood donation, the process is pretty easy. They're going to put the needle in your arm. They're going to cover it with a bandage. They're going to cover that with a little cloth. If you don't want to see it, that's perfectly fine. They're going to put a squeezy ball in your hand, and they're going to ask you to just squeeze it regularly, every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just to make sure that things are still working up and your muscles are doing good, and squeeze that ball. That process, you're only going to be in the chair maybe 15, 20 minutes. The last time I donated blood, I would think I was in the chair for like 15 minutes. It's super fast. That's for a whole blood donation. What you're going to end up doing, Travis, and those of you who are donating convalescent plasma, is a process called apheresis. It's a long word that basically just means separating the blood before it even makes it to the lab. So they're going to, again, put the needle in your arm. They might put one in the other arm as well, depending on the technology that they're using. But it could be a double return needle on one side. That needle is actually slightly smaller than a whole blood needle in most cases, so it doesn't hurt as much. Don't get me wrong, you're being stabbed with a needle, so the finger prick hurts and the needle hurts. But I was looking at it this way. A needle hurts less than cancer. A needle hurts less than dying out on a table in a hospital room. So that's my guilt trip that I was telling you. So with apheresis, you're going to be in the chair for a little bit longer. What they're doing with apheresis is, as I mentioned, there are all those different components to your blood. When you take a whole blood donation and it goes to the lab, they're going to put your blood in these centrifuges, and they're going to spin it down, and you're going to end up with just pure red cells and pure platelets and pure plasma. With an apheresis donation, they're going to do that in advance. So on the machine, it's going to spin your blood. And on the machine, they're going to take out the platelets and the plasma, or just the plasma, and they're going to put everything else back in, so you don't even lose all that much blood. If they're doing some apheresis donations, they're actually going to return saline as well, so that you keep your fluid level pretty high. So you're gonna get that back. But you're going to be in the chair longer because it takes time to do all that spinning. But what it means is that instead of just donating 1 unit, you might be able to donate 2 or 3 or 4 in one sitting and help 4 times as many patients with one time in the chair. When the saline comes back into you, it's going to feel a little weird because it's like room temperature. And so your body's been putting out 90-degree liquid and it's getting back in 70-degree liquid. So it feels a little weird, but you get over it very, very quickly. And then usually after an apheresis donation, people actually feel slightly better than on a whole blood donation because we didn't take out any of the iron stuff. Or they didn't take it out. I can't say we anymore because I worked in Lubbock in 5 years. And so that's the apheresis procedure. So you're going to be in the chair for longer. But afterwards, they've got units of plasma ready to go and get processed, and it's a much quicker process to get it to the patient in need. After that, you sit there. Just sit there for a while. Everybody makes the mistake of saying, "I'm fine, stand up, fall down." Don't do that. Your body just lost a half liter of blood. Don't get up. Lay there in the chair. And lay there for at least 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, until you feel like any kind of faintness, dizziness, wooziness has gone away. Just kind of give it a second. Then when you get up, you still might feel a little, if you do, sit back down, get back in the chair. It's fine. You're there for a reason. They're there for a reason. They're going to be okay if you just kind of sit there. Get back in the chair. When you're feeling great or better, they're going to give you some snacks, a little bit of fluid, maybe a bottle of water or some salty or orange juice or whatever else. Probably some salty snacks to replenish your electrolytes. You might get a bag of Lay's or pretzels or whatever else. You might popcorn, and you probably maybe get a cookie or depending on what they have. They're going to give you a snack. You might even actually get a gift. You might get a T-shirt. You might get an Amazon gift card. It depends. There's some ways that the whole you can't be paid thing, but you might get a special gift, a movie ticket or whatever else for going and donating. And then you're going to go probably sit down in what they call the canteen area or the rest area for a little while longer. Maybe spend another 5 minutes in there just to make sure you're feeling good. If you don't feel good after your donation, tell them. They have registered nurses on site. They might even have an MD there in the building who will help you out. There's some things you can do, like elevating your legs or cold compresses or things of that nature, breathing exercises that can help you feel better faster. But tell them, let them know they're used to it. They deal with 16-year-old cheerleaders who weigh 1 pound above the required limit and are going to collapse the second they get out of that chair because they forgot to eat and they didn't drink any water. And they said, "It's fine. I'm going to be fine. Just do it." And then poof. It happens, okay? But it's just let them know they'll take good care of you. Then when you're done, head on home. They're going to do some processing to the blood. I won't get into all that because I could spend another 20 minutes on this. But afterwards, they're actually going to do some cool stuff. You might get some online donor information. If you don't already know your blood type, they'll be able to tell you that. They'll be able to give you some things like your iron levels and let you know how that goes. And then if you've never donated blood and you're not a convalescent plasma person, but you go to donate anyways, almost every blood center right now is testing for COVID antibodies. It's not 100% test. They're still working on the molecular testing for that, but you could get at least a pretty good idea, and then they'll send it out for confirmation later of whether or not you have the antibodies, and then you could turn around and become a convalescent plasma donor. So that is the blood donation experience. You can donate blood on a regularly scheduled interval. For most donations, it's every 56 days. So it's not like you need to go in there once a week, every week. Some types of blood donation, you're actually out for 112 days. So you got 4 months before you need to come back in. But it is a thing that people really should make it a bigger habit to do, if only because there is no substitute. Convalescent plasma cannot be manufactured. These antibodies, they're working on a vaccine, but we don't have one yet. Red blood cells cannot be manufactured. The patient in the air ambulance flying over your city needs a blood donor to have been in the chair the week before. You donating today does not help the person in the hospital yesterday, but it will help the person in the hospital next week. And so that's why donating blood is super, super important. And convalescent plasma right now, even more so, because there are literally patients on ventilators in ICUs who are getting convalescent plasma to give them a fighting chance at making it out the other side with whatever limited complications we're finding out about now are going to happen there.
Awesome. You told me to remind you about dreaming.
Drinking. Not dreaming,
okay.
Drinking. So here's the other thing. This is not in the books, but I don't work for a blood bank anymore, so I can say what I want to on this situation. Alcohol is a metabolized substance. So when you drink a beer, it gets metabolized into the blood and spread out through your bloodstream, and that's what causes inebriation. Or when you drink a cocktail or your vodka or shots or whatever you happen to do. If there is less blood, the concentration of all this goes up because there's less blood in your system to dilute anything. So I certainly do not recommend drinking after you donate blood. But the day after you donate, you still have not replenished all of that volume. So you might have to drink less to get the same level of inebriation. Just a helpful cost-saving tip for those of you out there who are both blood donors and craft beer fans from me to you. So
there you go.
But again, don't drink the same day. Like, don't go home and drink that day because your body needs to recover. So just don't do
that sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one more ad, and then we're going to get out of here, guys. So, if you guys checked out my other show with Teeing Off with Travvy T and the Bad Guy. So Teeing Off is the fastest rising combat sports show without a corporate backing. I'm PrimeTime Travvy T, and every Tuesday, me and my co-host, the Bad Guy, Kenny Davis, discuss the news and rumors surrounding all of combat sports. You can catch us every Tuesday at t13media.com. This is your one-stop shop for all things violent. So basically, we're done with the show, but it's kind of had an overarching theme here, if you think about it. COVID took everything we love. So now we just have to sit inside and play video games. And you know what I mean? Maybe you want to go out and go to a theme park or amusement park and you want to get there and you're wishing COVID away. So maybe you should go ahead and donate your plasma so that we can find a vaccine faster. We can help people out faster. So that's my going away gift is wear your mask, stay socially distant, wash your hands, donate your plasma. Avery, it's been a blast talking to you. You have anything else you want to say before we head out?
Absolutely. It's absolutely been super fun to talk to you as well tonight. Just exactly what you said. Put on a mask. It's not hard. You're going to be fine. Doctors wear masks every day, all day. You're not special. You're not special. Your face is not special. Just wear the damn mask and go donate plasma if you can. If you want to find out more about Stadia, Stadia Source, and all that good stuff, check us out on the web at stadiasource.com. That's STADIA, Stadia. Well, it's the plural of stadium. Stadiasource.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Stadia Source. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/StadiaSource. You can follow me on the socials on Twitter at CharmCity A. CharmCity A for Avery. And I tweet about Stadia a lot. And then I tweet takes on things like chicken nuggets. So there's other topics that I could go on for many, many hours about, things like fried chicken products. But I won't. I don't have that much time. But yeah, you can follow me at CharmCity A, and you can follow us at Stadia Source everywhere you might follow people.
There you go, guys. And check out the rest of the T13 Media productions at t13media.com. See ya. Wait. Before you guys go, have you seen our show Debatable? It's the only courtroom where your dishonorable, not a real judge has to make rulings on some of the silliest, but sometimes serious, yet always entertaining topics known to man. If you've ever wondered what it's like to hear grown men yell at each other about their favorite cereals, then hug it out by the end, then Debatable is for you. Find us every Monday at twitch.tv/T13media at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.